You're gonna have to stick around all the way up.
Yeah, you're gonna want to bond it. So in this case here, like see this little leaf here, if you wanted to, you could just smush this down here, and that would be your continuous ground for everything. But since this is wood and you're smushing it down into nothing, then you want to use this guy.
Copper ground wire through here, through all of these inverters.
Yep.
And then when I mounted the panels up there, I put a jumper between each panel.
Yep.
And then one connected from that one panel right down to the ground wire.
Yeah.
How did you attach the panels to the 2x6?
Right, with a foot like this for the end, mid-clip
Okay.
was like this, except the mid-clip I had was a little bit different. It was like this, came down, so it was a flat top. It wasn't set down in but it was just, this would work. It's just harder to get the bag in. The one I had a flat top.
Okay. So we've got our stuff. We've looked at our YouTube videos. We're all excited. We're all ready to climb on our roofs with our safety harnesses, completely OSHA approved. So, how do you get away with that? Me? It's me, my father, and my brother. I'm not over 12 employees when they start really looking at you pretty badly. So, and for all other installations, it's like it's not like we're going to be on a job site for 6 months doing a supermarket or a strip mall. It's like we're in and out in 2 days, and it's rural. Yeah, so that way if we do fall, then we're very, very far away from the medical care. So you're on your roof.
This is all on tape, by the way, Blair, just saying.
So you have your roof, and you want to start laying out your panels. Notice these actual tabs of the flash foot attachment, they tuck up underneath your shingles. So you want to make sure that, a lot of people say, okay, I want to put it up tight to the roof. I don't care if it hangs over the back side, not too concerned. Well, if this was the top of your roof, keep in mind there's a ridge cap here. So this is, you basically are sticking your flash foot attachment up underneath the ridge cap, which is held down by nails, so then you have to pop some nails out. If you pop nails out, then all of a sudden your ridge cap has the potential to be blown off the roof. And then once that happens, it's not good. So what we like to do is usually keep it at least 6 inches down from the roof, the top of the panel, that is. Our roof structure here isn't the biggest, so we're going to work with what we have, but you want to keep it down from the top of the roof. One is so you don't see it from the other side, but two, keep in mind again, when you have your L-foot and then your racking and then your panel on that, all of a sudden your line of sight is a lot taller than it was before, and you're going to be able to see it more readily from the other side. And then they're going to also be able to tell, one, if your panels go downhill or uphill, according to the roof line, or how terrible your roof line is, depending on how good a job the roofer did. Sometimes you have to live with not aesthetically pleasing if you sit down and evaluate, okay, the roof isn't straight, or, there's sometimes on jobs where we pull our hairs out for, a good half a day trying to get it to look the best, but it's like we just have to go with what we have because the roof isn't that well installed. And if somebody's there looking at your roof and criticizing it at a barbecue, then you can tell them to go home. So you have, here you want to actually install your panels. You want to start by finding your roof rafters. Again, go in the attic, try to find it. If you're good at finding it on your own, that's fine too. You want to first establish where one is, and then you also want to establish what your spacing is. If it's 16 inches, if it's 24 inches, if you have a big truss system for a big commercial garage, it might even be 4 feet. So keep that in mind when you're installing it. But okay, you get up here, you measure your roof, and say, this is where I want my array to go. This is the dead center of my roof. Say I have a dormer down here that I want to, center it on that dormer. I'm going to center it on that dormer so it looks aesthetically pleasing. Do your measurements. You know, you have a cut sheet. You should have a cut sheet of, you know, for your building permit that you send in for your panel. So measure what those panels are width-wise, if they're 38 3/4 or 39 inches wide or 40 inches wide, whatever it is. Get an exact measurement. Do the math. I suggest you do all the math in inches to start with. You know, just if you measure on your tape measure 12'4", convert it over to inches, 148 inches. That way you're just working with inches. You don't have to convert it while you're on the roof and do the math and screw it up and cut a rail too short. So you measure out, okay, here's where the end of my panel is going to be. So let's say it falls right here. I want to give my rail, okay, my panel stops here. I want to keep in mind I have an inch for my mid clip, and then give yourself an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, whatever you feel comfortable with. Give yourself that little room of error. So this is roughly where I want to fall. I want to find a roof rafter around here somewhere. And then so you, with your measurements, if you know from climbing in your attic where to start, then you know, okay, here's one here. I don't know if this roof necessarily shows it as good. Yeah, it doesn't show it that well to find it with just a hammer. But okay, we know by the chalk lines from the last classes that we've done and the holes in the roof from the last classes that we've done where the roof rafters might be. So you find this first roof rafter, and then this might determine whether or not you have to shift your system to the left or to the right a little bit. Because you don't want, say you have 2-foot trusses or something, or 4-foot trusses, you don't want an L-foot here and then this thing floating out in the breeze. You want to have at least 12, you want to have at most 12 inches from your L-foot of just raw end hanging out there. Otherwise it gets a little bit flimsy, a little bit wobbly, and it's not really that good of support. So say this is where we wanted our rail to start, and our first rafter was here, then we might have to move the system over a little bit. But for this instance, we have this right here, this roof rafter right here. Our rail is going to stop here, but now where vertically do we want, we have our roof rafter, where do we want to actually punch our hole? So we said last night, 12 to 15 inches from the top of the panel, so 65 inches tall, so about 12 to 15 inches down, we want to start our rail. So if we say, okay, I want my panel to stop, if there was more roof space up here, I want my panel to stop right here below the ridge cap. So that's where I want to stop it. I measure down 12 to 15 inches, and depending on where that puts me in the shingle, different manufacturers are different with their flash foot of where they want it. You can determine, okay, I definitely want to put it, you know, you don't want to put it, I believe you don't want to put it like right underneath the edge of another set of shingles. You actually want to be up above that tar strip that's underneath the shingle, this tar strip here. So you want to be up in this area. So that gives you that 12 to 15 inches to play with. And again, you might have to shift your hole array down a little bit, but so that gives you the height you want. So you have the width, you've established that. This is the rafter I want. That's the closest one to start with. We use a heavy nail, and we just punch a heavy nail in there. That way we can put our string line on it, wherever that might be, or chalk line, sorry. And then we take our tape measure, measure out, okay, from this nail, my array is going over 10 panels. So here's my 10th panel. I know, okay, 10th panel plus the end clip. Keep in mind your 1 inch mid clips in between each one to do your math. Here's the end of my panel, my mid clips, 2 inches on the end. That's where my rail should stop. You find your roof rafter in there. Again, don't cut those off yet. Give yourself a little bit of room of error, flexibility, in case you do your math wrong. It's been known to happen, so you don't want to cut it off. Actually, yeah, that's a different story. You could, I guess, figure out what happened. Anyway, so you run your, you find your roof rafter over here either by measuring, because you know what you're at, and then this is the last roof rafter I want. You measure down height-wise off the chimney cap, roof cap, punch a nail there. You can run a string line across. Or if you have 2 people, you can snap lines. Most of the time, when we install a system, we're most efficient when I can go. I'm the one that meets with the customer. I talk with the customer. I measure everything. I lay everything out. And then when we install a system, it's better if I go there by myself and just the first day or an afternoon or something and just lay everything out myself. That way I'm not worried about keeping someone else busy or keeping another guy going or keeping other people functioning. It's just like, okay, I can sit there and think and double check and I'm not rushed and I can lay everything out. So take your time to lay everything out. It's important to do that. And this is really the most critical part. And once you start putting the panels on, you'll be surprised and it's like boom, before you know it. So you find this last roof rafter, and then you do the math in between. Do you want to go 48 inches? Do you want to maybe go 64 inches? Depending. If you get a kit, a lot of times they're set up for 48 inches. So just go with 48 inches. Why not attach some more stability to your roof if you want, if you have it available to you. So you do the math in between and realize, okay, I'm going to put one here, 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 here. You can mark all those too after you snap your line. The yellow crayon mark there, get one of those crayons, get sidewalk chalk, something like a tire crayon, works good to just nice bright color on the roof. You don't have to sharpen your pencil a whole bunch of times, and you don't chew through a Sharpie marker. So once you've established where each foot is going, then you could also snap vertical lines too, based on your measurements. You know where each roof rafter is. It's always good to snap vertical lines if you have multiple rows, because that helps a lot faster. And then we do the same thing on the bottom rail of the bottom row. Is you snap your line because you still have your nails in the roof. So you snap your line down, pull it, snap it. Then you have, okay, this is where my bottom foot is. Let's say I have another rail here. Instantly that's where it is. And you can snap horizontal lines too once you take your measurements down. So the panel itself, you're 12 to 15 inches from the top of the panel is your first penetration. And then if they're 65 inches tall, you want to be roughly 12 to 15 inches from the bottom up on the panel, and that's where you snap your other lines. So let's say we're 15 inches. So 15 inches down from 65 puts us at 50, and then we take another 15 inches. So that gives us really 35 inches in between that we want. So we measure 35 inches down, and again, you can adjust that. If this ends up being 8 inches from the bottom of the panel, not critical, not terribly bad or anything. You don't want to be hanging out, 2 feet or something like that. That's a little bit much.
Do you ever give you trouble with them on the code? Say they have to be 4 foot instead of 60 inches?
I haven't. I've also never had an inspector climb on the roof.
Right.
I've had one in New York State climb on the roof, and the only reason I know the New York State, the real anal ones on the money and all that stuff and what they give out and making sure everything's by code, which is good. I'd rather have that, but I knew he was on the roof. We like to meet our inspectors there too. It's always good if you meet them because that way you can answer any questions. But the New York inspectors will call you on like a Monday afternoon and say, I'm going to be there tomorrow morning first thing, can you be there? It's like, no, I got stuff, thank you, but no, like I'd like to actually talk with them because they, more than anybody, know the code the best. So I'd like to pick their brain on some things and how would you like to see this, or what's this, or what's your impression of that. So
I got caught on that. He come down, guy come up, I said, what are you here for? He says, I'm the solar answer. Yeah, inspector. I said, come on, I'll show you the panel. He said, no, I don't see the roof. Structural, see how many beams they missed.
Do they climb in your attic and see everything? Wow.
You don't have to climb it, you can walk up there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, he wanted to see, that's what he wanted to see. He said, all right, you're all right.
Yeah, you'll tell because your roof rafters don't always go straight. If you've ever done a roof before and you're laying your sheathing down and it doesn't quite match up, so you bend a little bit of the roof rafter just to get it to nice and straight line. It's not always going to be straight, so you might miss it. I have a ratchet here. Use an impact driver if you don't have one. I mean, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, Ryobi, $100 you get an impact drill, a driver, and a drill. $100 if you drop it off the roof. It's not a big deal. And just zip that down, and you'll know if it bites into some good heavy meat.
Oh, you had something.
I'm sure I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but you can tell if it's not in the actual rafter itself because you just keep spinning and spinning. So you measure down and say, okay, here I am, 35 inches from this rail. Again, snap your lines. Then you have a grid, and every intersection is where you want to put. So you go through and you drill. So you see here.
Okay. Thanks for checking.
Say for some reason this was way off.
Have a good night.
We were supposed to be here, we drilled, we missed, and then we came over here, drilled, it wasn't quite right, and we moved it over just a hair, and then we were right where we wanted to be. Your flash foot setup is going to cover that, but just shoot it with some silicone. We like to lift the shingle and shoot underneath it with some silicone so it presses itself out, and then hit the top of it with some silicone. But this is the hole we want, so we shoot a little bit in there. This is tucked up underneath, and we just put our your lag bolt. You want at least 2.5 inches into the actual meat of your rafter or truss. So you got to account for your sheathing and your shingle, or 2-layer shingles, or whatever it is.
I went online and I found using the flight.
But with these setups, it comes with a flat washer, it comes with the Alpha, it comes with this rubberized flat washer, and this aluminum piece. The only thing you'll have to get is the lag, unless we get more sophisticated. You know, some manufacturers don't come with the lag, some don't. This brand doesn't. Go through your stuff before you run to Home Depot or electrical supply house and get stuff. We'll just go here. So you put your system in here. You'll notice this is flat with a rubber washer. That rubber washer goes through, and there's a little bit of a hill right there. It helps shed the water also. So that fits very nicely, and well, see, that was going to be long. That fits right in there perfectly. Slides up underneath. Put your L foot on. Again, this is why impact drivers work wonders, because you don't have to sit here and crank and crank and crank and crank forever. It's just a quick zip and it's done. Where this is you just move a lot faster. I'm sure everyone is familiar with that. The question usually comes up is, what about if my L foot is a little bit askew? You know, my rails are supposed to run horizontal. What if it's not quite horizontal? Do I have to make sure everything's perfect before I attach my my L foot? So let's say my L foot was like that. I mean, make it as straight as you can, but it's not going to be perfect. When you put your rail up there and tighten your rail to it, it's going to draw it. Even if it's really, really tight, it's going to draw it straight for you. It's kind of like a straight edge is going to be working. So, somebody want to put in this other one. Oh, here you go. You're the pro. You already have a system. There you go.
Move it in, huh?
Yep. The rails come as long as 20 feet, 240 inches. So what we do is, we have all of our L feet, we have all of our attachments made, then we'll just throw our rails on the roof. Unless we need to cut a 20-footer in half to split it over 2 different sides. We'll throw our rails on the roof just like this, kind of get them where we want them. You know, say, okay, this is about where we're ending, so we'll push it over to the end and get it relatively close. Then we take our 9/16 bolts and slide them in along the rail, however many feet we need, or for how many feet we have. And it's nice because you have these L feet to work off of. You slap the rail up there and it just stays, and then when it comes time to actually install it, all you do is just rotate the whole thing at once. Start from one end, right to left, left to right, however you're working it.
What is this crank all the way down?
You'll get there. So, what we do is just hand tighten them. Not even really hand tighten them. We just get them on there just so they're tight enough to not have the nut come off. So that way, when it comes time to adjust this side, we're going to be working right to left. When it comes time to adjust this side, we're not fighting every last little. We're not trying to push it and pull it to line it up. So same thing on this side. Thank you very much.
On ring?
That was splendid work right there. Again, we go on the top rail just because it gives a little bit more cooling, a little bit more elevation if you do need to reach underneath there and clip a panel together if you happen to forget. It does happen. So, one other thing, you don't ever, this is just a display purpose, but you never want to have say you needed just to put one extra panel at the end. So you say you cut a rail at 45 inches to give yourself what you need for that end rail. You want to have at least 2 L feet for that last, for every rail. So you don't want to have just one piece of L foot and then everything flopping around in the breeze like this is right now. You want to have 2 L feet per rail minimum. So we put it in there, we give ourselves a little bit of a gap. You know, these 4 holes are for if you want to put all 4 screws in and you're putting the rails up all in one unit, but it's easier just to lift them one at a time and do this on the roof. So you put 2 screws in, that gives yourself a little bit of room for expansion and contraction. The main thing is contraction is when, because in the summer you're putting this up, it's going to be warmer. A lot of times it's going to be expanded already. So you really want to give it some room for contraction, but still give it a little bit of a gap. And you can see 2 holes here, so this was a piece that we had used before. And I might actually need this because I don't think that lower one's big enough to fit 2 panels on.
So you're saying at 20-foot length, you only need 2 L feet?
You need a minimum of 2. Minimum of 2 L feet per rail. So if you're going 20 feet long, you need one every 4 feet. You know, you can stretch it to 64, but if we're, if this was the case where we just need a little bit extra, and say this splice bar was going to be underneath the last panel, we just need a little bit extra to make it that last 12 inches or something, we would need 2 L feet to stabilize that, yeah. So once this is up and in, I mean, you can put all 4 screws in if you want. That helps with maybe pushing and pulling it to line up your right side, but we usually don't. That's up to you. So now that we have this established, we'll actually come through and line up this right side. We'll take a measurement off the side of the roof. We all know the shingle line on the side of the roof isn't 100% true. So we'll take a measurement, and between a measurement with the top and bottom and running a straight line and using our eye and everything, we'll kind of settle on what is straight, and then we'll still run a straight line across the end to make sure they're all starting at the same area, or the same length. So we'll come through, we pull all of ours to the top to tighten them. When you come through and tighten them with 9/16 inch wrench, you bring them all to the top. The reason we do that is so in our mind, we don't have to think, okay, here you are. You see that? You don't have to think, when you're on the roof, sometimes with the bumps and everything in your roof, you'll need to make an adjustment because it's one panel, one row of panels, there'll be a little bit of a bump in it, and then the next row of panels comes in, you can see that from down below. So we know if everything is as high as it goes, we know all we can do is lower it. So if this one's higher and we're running this row of panels, and this one's lower, we know we can't bring these panels any higher, so we just reach up and drop that upper, the lower rail of the upper run of panels a little bit lower. So it just kind of makes it easier in our mind, so we're not crawling down and looking and trying to adjust and see, well, I don't know, is that one as low as it can go, or whatever. So we crank down on them, make them nice and tight once we've established where we want to be. And then once these are established, we can come through and take our measurements for our inverters. Your inverters want to be roughly in the center of where your panel is. We like to give ourselves a little bit off center, like we talked last night. You'll see that when I put the panel around, there's a module box on the back. It just makes it a little bit easier with all the cluster wires that they're not on top of each other, not smushed. So we have this established, 2 inches mid or end clip, then the panel's going to start. So then we say, okay, if it's 40 inches, we'll come out 20 inches and maybe go 21 inches. If this is for one set of panels, all you got to do is mount the inverter on the top. So this is where all your wiring and junk is going to be with your zip ties and your bond wire. So we'll come up here and we'll mark the top side with an X, just with a Sharpie. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then measure 40 inches from there, X with a Sharpie on down. We like to, if we're running our panels from this way to that way, and say our wire is going to end on that end, we like to put our inverters offset on that end because it gives you, with this trunk cable, it gives you just a little bit more room to, I mean, these are set at 40 inches, so if you offset it this way, it gives you a little bit more room to work your wires on this end. Again, it's not critical, but just some little things that we've learned to be a little bit easier. So once we come through and mark where all of our inverters are going, then we can come through and slide some of these little bolts in. So, okay, again, 2 inches, end clip, panel starts. Here's where my 20 inches is. Let me go ahead and put my inverter in here. So now that I have those two there, they make several different kinds of weaves. This is for a panel. You could also use it for your inverter if you want to bend these tabs down. All you need is one. You don't need one per unit, but you just put this weave, and then when you tighten down your inverter, it's going to, again, pierce the upper inverter and into the rail and make a good mechanical ground or bond. But we're not going to use it because, again, if you do crank down on it, tighten it down, it loses its effectiveness to use it the second time for a mechanical ground. So my inverter is over here. Thank you. These are nice because they just slide right up and in. Again, keep in mind there is a weave underneath there, unless we want to run the bond wire through this bonding lug. Either or, it's up to you.
Supposed to be ran the other way?
No. Nope. You would think, just aesthetically by the way it looks, but this is the way they're supposed to go. They do this so if this installation is done as a carport or in a parking structure where they use solar panels to generate electricity but also shield cars from the sun, especially down like Arizona, New Mexico. They do that so when you look up at the bottom of the panels they say, ooh, Aurora Power One, I'm going to use that, you know, a little way of advertising. So if they put it on this side, then no one's going to, they're just going to see a shiny box and not know what it's for. So here's this, we install that, come through, tighten them all down. Then once you have that established and all these little bolts in here, then you can come through and tighten down your bonding jumper. So here's this bonding jumper. Again, this weave doesn't bite upwards, it just bites downwards because that's stainless on stainless there. It doesn't have a coating to it.
2x4 wall and an inner 2x4 wall.
So you come down here. Obviously, if this was not rigged together, this would be a little bit easier to get in here. I'm not going to bother with that, but what you want to make sure too is with your measurements, sometimes these come pretty close to where your panels meet. So if you have a panel and a panel meeting here, this might be pretty close to where those panels meet, so you don't want to have this laying right in there. Or say your panel's going to end here, you have 1 inch for your mid clip and your other panel starts here. Well, it's not just right where that edge of the panel is, you still have about 1.25 inches underneath the panel that's flat. So your meeting up of your panels, if you see here, here's the back of the module, you have to account for this distance, which I think is 1.25 inches on these units, then the inch for the mid clip, and then another 1.25 inches for the other panel itself. So you don't want this to go ahead and crank down and tighten down on everything and then have to loosen it up and slide it over and get a new weave and tighten down and crank down on it again. It's just going to slow you down. So measure that out and don't, try not to be too close to, you might have to just move it one way or another, favor one side more than the other. We don't use these too much. What we'll get for you is the actual bonding lugs. We like these better because it's less junk to carry around. Remember, these are more universal. Same thing, you have one on either side, and you could just run your bonding wire from here through everything. Chances are, when we order a system for you, that's what we're going to do, because you're going to buy a spool of 250 feet of number 6 bond wire, and you're really not going to really ever, unless you're a contractor, you're really not going to ever use that again. So why not use it up here, make the inspector happy that he sees this bright shiny copper wire, and it's a little bit easier, less things to have to remember. And these are more universal too, because if our seat ends right here, we might be tight with that one clip here and the other clip here. So you could bond it here, and then the other one you could bond all the way over here if you wanted, but just as long as they're bonded somewhere. So you want to lay those out strategically. Crank down on those, tighten down on those. If you did put your 2 screws in, take them out. You're getting ready for your trunk cable then. Trunk cable.
Every rail needs to be bonded, but only one?
Yes. I'm sorry, yeah, that's a good thing to say. I forgot about that part. So if we have one row of 10 panels, all we need to do is bond one row, because again, we talked last night with those weaves in the panels, alternating bottom and top with each seam, is bond each rail together through the panels. These are already bonded to the rail or through the wire. Each rail, splice of the rails bonded together. Now we just need to bond one set of rails. So a lot of times, if your panel ends here, we'll put this right here so you don't see it hanging out the side. Crank down on it and run this copper wire through everything, and then through this, and say we're exiting the roof this way, or in a junction box through the roof this way, we'll just bring it all down through in the junction box. But yeah, you want to bond this. If there's multiple rails or multiple rows of panels, 3 rows of panels, it means we have 6 rows of rails. We'll bond every other rail, or at least one set of rails per set. But yeah, so that normally we bring the whole coil of copper wire to the roof, run that wherever we need to, and then do this last connection, just leave the coil of wire to sit here at the end. And that way, when it comes time to put everything through the roof or over the side of the roof, we can just keep uncoiling it. If it goes through the roof, you do need to cut it then, or think your way from the basement up and uncoil it as one. That's kind of a pain, but you do need, by code, an irreversible connection. I don't think, I don't know with inspectors if they'd even pick up on that, but technically, yeah, you need an irreversible connection, so a split bolt won't work. Anything you can loosen up again won't work. So now